All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 3D Church. My name's Matt Morgan. I'm a good friend of Pastor Keith. Been here several times to speak. And though I'm 6 inches shorter, have no hair, and have 60 pounds less muscle than your pastor, I'm still going to bring it, all right? Come on. All right, so hey, we are, if you're new, I want to say a special welcome to you, and we are in a series that I think is absolutely fantastic because of how practical it is. It's all about that bumper. It's being called Unstrapped. When you think about the word unstrapped from a financial perspective, what do you think of? Go ahead, shout it out. Freedom. Come on, baby, freedom. Who doesn't want freedom? We're Americans, right? Freedom is powerful. Anybody else? Any other words when you think about unstrapped? That's it. Okay. We're going to rock with freedom then. All right, it's a powerful thing, right? But oftentimes as Americans, we usually say we're not unstrapped, we're what? We're strapped. I would love to help you, but I'm strapped. I can't do that. In fact, I don't know about you, but I've been married for 11 years to my lovely wife, Sarah. And in the moment of getting married, the moment we said the vows, I do, both of us became $15,000 more in debt in that moment. We became twice as poor than we already were by saying I do because we had college loans. Anybody got college loans? You're still paying those off? Come on, right? And so we literally had $15,000 of debt. We had both of us had college educations, and I became a pastor. I'm 23 years old, and I'm making a whopping $26,000 a year, working 60 hours a week. I'm pretty sure a barista at Starbucks makes more than I do. And in that moment, I knew I should have become a televangelist, then I would have been making the real money. But I didn't, because I actually wanted to help people. And in the process of that, I was just strapped. And I'm starting to be not only strapped, but when you're strapped, you're stressed. And when you're stressed, is all you can think about is what? Yourself, right? In your own situation. And it would be nice to be able to go help people and contribute and do all these great things, but I couldn't because I was strapped. And if you find yourself strapped for cash in your life today, this is going to be one of the most helpful series for you. You see, this is week 2. Last week, Pastor Keith did a fantastic job just laying out, I think, a dream and a foundation for what this could look like. Now, I need to say this, and there needs to be a caveat. When we talk about money, this is one of the most emotional topics, right? If you go out in the world today, you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about money, right? Well, we're in church, so we're going to talk about Jesus, we're going to talk about religion, but now it's like, well, don't talk about politics and don't talk about money. Well, guess what? We're talking about money. Now, here's the deal. There's a lot of emotion that comes with that because maybe for you, the way you grew up, mom and dad didn't handle it so well. You saw a lot of fights happen in the home, and so it scared you. Maybe you have some, for you, maybe you're a friend and you invited a friend to come to church and you haven't been to church in a long time, and the last time you were at church, they were talking about money, and you're like, oh my gosh, you have maybe some PTSD, and you're like, oh no, not the money talk, right? Because maybe the church just wants my money, right? And what's so beautiful about this church is that couldn't be further from the truth. The heart, I want you to be able to just rest at ease no matter what kind of PTSD or money struggles you have. The heart behind this church is for you to fall truly, madly, deeply, Savage Garden style in love with Jesus, all right? In a way that you never have before. And part of that, what I love about the gospel is that God didn't come to send Jesus to rescue us from our sins so that one day we could escape this world and just go to heaven someplace else when we die. But rather, Jesus' prayer was what? God, would you be able to help me bring heaven to earth? Right? When I start seeing your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And God actually wants all of us to be a part of that kingdom goal. And one of the elements that helps us be able to be kingdom mindset agents is when we are unstrapped. Did you know that Jesus speaks about money 25% of the time? You know, there's over 800 passages in the Bible regarding money, running a business, getting out of debt, being able to work through elements. You know, one of my favorite subjects, one of my favorite letters in the Bible is Proverbs, okay? And we're going to kind of camp out in Proverbs a little bit today, but Proverbs has this passage that if you've been a Christian or you've been to church, you've heard this passage. In fact, Pastor Keith said it last week. It's Proverbs 22, verse 7. It says, "The rich rules over the poor," right? "And the borrower is slave to the lender." Anybody a borrower? I've been a borrower, right? You feel like you're strapped because you're always having to pay the piper every single month. And what's hard about that is it makes us strapped to be able to live out maybe the calling or the vision or the desire as a Christian to be able to contribute. A lot of us, you know, even whether you're a Christian or not, I think deep down a lot of us, we actually want to contribute and to give back regardless of where you're at. Why? Because we are made in God's image. John 3:16, one of the most famous passages. "For God so loved the world that he" what? He gave, right? He gave. And so we are made in his image, and we actually have a human desire, a human need, a spiritual need to contribute, to give back, to see that our life is bigger than ourselves, that we can make a tangible difference, to adopt that child, to help the poor, to help a family within our own church community, and to be able to say, you know what, you have a need, I want to be able to help that. Not just from a financial perspective, but even from an emotional perspective. But when you're strapped, is all you can think about is your other human need that we have, which is certainty, right? Certainty is a human need, and when you don't know where the next thing's going to come through because you're in debt, you are only able to focus on Maslow's hierarchy of need one, food, water, and shelter, and be able to see, am I going to be okay? The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. This is where we're going to camp out today, because week 2, what we need to do before we can go on to week 3 and week 4 is we need to talk about what it could look like to get out of debt. This isn't a money conversation. This is a relationship with God and vision and calling conversation about what we're called to in this life, and to live in a way where we are unstrapped. In fact, what you're going to learn in this series, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, you're going to learn this next week, but if you are under the age of 40, living in America, there is no reason why anyone living under the age of 40 cannot retire a millionaire. Now imagine just that for a moment. Being a millionaire or multi-millionaire. Anybody like to have millions of dollars? Some of us maybe have that, but would anybody like to have, no, 2 of us want to have millions of dollars. No, I like poverty. Okay, the rest of you are lying. Perfect. Okay, just knowing my audience. Good. So here's the deal. All of us want to be able to make a difference because we are unstrapped. Not just, imagine what that could do, right? You could take your wife on a vacation. You could help that kid. You could adopt that child. You could give to your church. You could invest in that community project. You could actually not be a burden on your kids when you get old and retire, and they don't have to take care of you because you are set up well. You are unstrapped. That is the kind of opportunity that we're looking at and talking about. And I think God wants all of us, the gospel, the good news of Jesus is that he came to rescue, redeem, and restore us so that we could learn to be fully human, to be fully alive. And part of what it means to be fully human is not only have the certainty of knowing where our money comes, but the contribution to be able to give back and see that my life could actually create a ripple effect in this world. That is a human need, not a desire, a need that we all have. And some of you are like, I don't feel that need. Well, you don't feel that need because your world is so strapped that it's all you can think about is the human need of your own self-preservation. And today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the specific topic of getting out of debt, because it's robbing us. The average person has $16,000 in debt. That's going up every single year as people who are graduating from college continues to increase with tuition. Those of you who are 40 plus and you went and you have a college education, you spent probably anywhere between $4 to $20 a credit hour. You go to DU today, and the undergraduate degree is you walk out and you pay $61,000 a year to get an undergraduate degree. And it used to mean that once you got a degree, you got a job. And every 20-something's like, yeah, I'm still waiting for that job. I got the degree, I got $250,000 of loans, and I still ain't got no job, right? And so that's the struggle, or you're doing something that didn't require a college education. And so education, things are changing, and so there's a lot of debt that comes in the wake of that. But the point is, what's so beautiful, and what Pastor Keith does such a great job every single week, is that he inspires us, doesn't he? You know, to be able to follow God. And you just saw videos of that. Man, I just love coming because I'm inspired. But Pastor Keith's heart in this is understanding this. If we inspire you but don't inform you, we haven't done our job. Because if you get inspired every single Sunday and you don't do anything about it, you just keep coming back inspired but not informed, you're just getting high. That's all you're doing. You're just getting, oh, that was a great hit. I'm coming back next week for some more of that, right? That's awesome to get high. I want you to get high, okay? Mile High City, get high. But now on Monday, let's do something about it. Because application makes all the difference. In fact, Proverbs, the letter of Proverbs, is known as the what kind of literature? Wisdom. There it is. It's the wisdom literature. What is wisdom? Wisdom is applied knowledge, right? It's actually doing something with what you know. I love Proverbs 13, verse 18. It says, poverty and disgrace come to him who ignores instruction. Proverbs is all about giving instruction, but whoever heeds reproof is honored. The point is this: knowing something and doing something about what you know are two very different things. Application makes all the difference. And the good news is this isn't rocket science. This isn't complex things, okay? What we're going to be talking about is actually very simple. The difference is doing it. Actually doing it and working through it. Here's the deal. I don't speak from a place of just in theory. I speak from a place for those of you who are in debt, of being in your shoes. And yet, even though by Uncle Sam's standards, I was living at the poverty line. Even though I lived at the poverty line, I and my wife, we were able to get out of debt in 3 years. And then from there, start seeing this snowball effect happen in a way that was so incredible, of being able to save and invest. And so those of you who are not in debt, those of you who are doing well financially, here's what I want you to do. I want you to be able to take notes too, because you can actually begin to contribute and help other people in your life who are safe with you, to be able to help them take steps to get out of debt and get onto their calling that God has for them. And then next week, we're going to be doing saving and investing. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. And so working through that. And then week 4, Pastor Keith and I together are going to be up here. And we're going to be able to walk through this dream of what it could look like and just see the compounding effect of what this community could even see happen in our lifetime. It is inspiring and empowering. So, going into debt, those of us who are in debt, the question when we're up to our eyeballs in money and just trying to pay the bills, where do we even start? Where do we go? And the answer to that is the answer that you have last week that Pastor Keith started with, which is starting with a vision, okay? Starting with the vision. Do you know what vision is? Vision, I define it as this: it's a crystal clear picture of the future that produces passion. What is a vision? And only you can answer that. And I want you to ask yourself that question. What is a crystal clear vision of money from a financial perspective that produces passion in me? What do you get excited about? Or another way of saying that, what makes you angry? Because sometimes those are the same things. Knowing what makes you so mad and so angry is like a holy discontent to a calling that God has for you to be able to walk into your life. So the question is, what makes you passionate or what makes you upset? Write it down. Because having a vision is one of the most important places to start. Proverbs 13:16 says, wise people think before they act. They don't just move. They start with painting a picture in their head of what could this look like? In fact, the most successful people in life, in business, and in relationships all do the same thing. You know what it is? They begin with the end in mind. and then they reverse engineer backwards from there. Right? If you want to go to New York, you first say, I have a vision of going to New York. You don't just get in the car and start driving, because what happens? You drove 1,000 miles, but you're heading to LA. Wrong way. Right? And so you start with the vision, a crystal clear picture of like what makes you excited. Okay? What makes you someone who's going to come alive? God did this in humanity. Our theology is that Jesus is not plan B. Like God didn't like set us into motion and then he was like, oh crud, like these guys are off their rocker. I mean, they love Justin Bieber and they're just like, they're drinking their lattes. These people are screwed up. Oh my gosh, we need to bring in Jesus. No. Jesus was always plan A. Like he always knew that was going to be the case. He began with the end in mind. So what is your crystal clear vision that produces passion in you? Because that is the thing that's going to be your North Star when life gets hard. Do you know that statistically, about every 4 weeks, vision leaks? Right? You know what I'm talking about. Why am I in this job? Why did I say yes to that? Why am I in this relationship? Like this is a lot of work, right? We lose vision. And so having a vision, oh yeah, that's why. That's my North Star. That's the thing that God is putting in me. Begin the process. Let it become organic. Spend time on it. Don't force it. But ask yourself that question. Pastor Keith talked about it last week, and I'm bringing it up this week because it's that important. Because if you don't have a vision, you will be sidetracked. You will be distracted, and you will remain perpetually strapped and never able to get out of it, okay? And so here's the deal. You can do this. And you got to ask yourself, listen, if I say yes to that pumpkin spice latte, okay, I love October, what am I saying no to? It's okay. There's nothing wrong with a pumpkin spice latte. I love it, okay? But what am I saying no to if I'm strapped, okay, for cash? And this isn't about how much money you have. This is about whatever money you have, how am I using it, okay? You see, the deal is this. Bad is not the enemy of the best. The enemy of the best is good. Good things are robbing you from God things that he's created for you. And you will never know that, and you will always be distracted from it if you don't have a vision, okay? This is what we're talking about so that you could walk in the coolness of the day, walking in the way that God has for you. Unstrapped. Freedom, baby. Right? Freedom and doing that. In our church this past week, I've been hearing that there's been quite a bit of death, actually. And in the midst of mourning and the loss, and as Pastor Keith's email sent out on death brings about an opportunity for us to begin thinking about life. Resurrection can only happen through death. And so there's an opportunity for us, even as a church, as we're mourning the loss of loved ones, to begin thinking about, what am I doing with my life? Can I maximize? Can I live the fullness of what God has for me? And some of us are beat down. Some of us, we can't even begin to think about vision because we're so strapped emotionally, so strapped financially. And I think what God wants you to know is that you are a daughter. You are a son of the Most High God, and he has great things for you to accomplish. And he cares for you for your needs personally, and to also realize that you can contribute to others in this life. So you start with the vision. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to reverse engineer from there. I'm going to give you 3 little tips that could be a game changer for you, for those of you who are in debt. Okay? And when I talk about debt, I don't necessarily mean house debt. We will talk about that, especially in investing and saving. Those are typically signs, especially in Colorado, of good debt to be able to have, and some education. I'm talking about car debt. I'm talking about that furniture you just bought. I just saw an ad yesterday on Facebook that said, relax now, pay later. Buy this furniture. Right? What's going to happen? Depreciation. It's not going to give back, right? Your cat's going to pee on it, and then it's not going to be good anymore. And it's like, oh gosh, like it just completely lost its value. So in starting with that, the very first thing you need to do is the thing that you already know you've done. In fact, you've even maybe tried to do it, but you just didn't practice it. It's called this: make a budget. Make a budget. I talk to so many people who are like, yeah, I've made a budget before. Well, when's the last time you looked at it? It's been years. Okay, well, that's not serving you. It only serves you if you make a budget and you do it every single month. You look at it a month and you evaluate it and you live by your budget. Here's the advice from a principle to follow, okay? And it's not a matter of how much money you have. It's about a principle to follow. When you follow principles, then the next steps apply. Living 75% of your income for your daily, monthly needs. 15% of your income for saving and investing. And 10% of your income for giving. Some of you are like, that sounds impossible. I'm barely making it on my own. How in the world could 25% of my income go out? Well, you'll be surprised of how much things you think you have and you need, you really don't need. And you can make a budget, okay? That $5 latte, that cable, that NFL package you thought you just needed, which is an extra $40 a month, right? That iPhone, that iPhone 8, it's just $1,000, and you're paying $35 a month till Jesus comes back. No big deal, right? You don't really need it. Oh, but I need it. It's like the next thing, that impulse. Oh, I could relax now and pay later. Check. I do need some furniture. And so it's really being able to understand, if I only had, imagine you say to yourself, I only have 75% of my income. So many people, what they do is they look at what they have in their bank. It's the wrong thing. Look at what you have in your budget, and you decide. You respond through that. So many times in life, the difference between a thermometer and a thermostat? We're thermometers financially. We just take the temperature. That's all a thermometer can do. It can react and respond. Ooh, that person just sold me on that. Ooh, I'm going to get that. Ooh, new iPhone. It just came out. Yes, I have the iPhone 7, but the iPhone 8, oh, wow, the things it can do. So I'm going to trade that in and get this one in. And it's like you do all these things. And what happens is you just react and respond, and you can only take the temperature of things around you, and you become a slave to the lender. Instead, what does a thermostat do? It sets the temperature. It says, you know what? I'm going to live my life this way. And the way you set the temperature is you give yourself some boundaries. Anybody like whitewater rafting? I love whitewater rafting. I moved here in 2009. I remember coming out here when I was 16 years old to Colorado, God's country. Living in the Midwest, trust me, it's God's country, all right? And I come out here, and I'm on the Arkansas River, and I get down, and I'm in the Royal Gorge, and I'm just like on this class 4 rapids, and we're going nuts, and I feel like I'm going to die, and it's awesome. And, I'm paddling back and forth, and I remember just thinking, we got to a part where it was just calm a little bit. And I was like, why is this river so fun? Why is it so free? Why is it so raging with life? It's because it's got boundaries. It's because it's got banks. Without those banks, without those boundaries, what would happen? The water would dissipate. Mosquitoes would come and lay their eggs there. I wouldn't go there, we wouldn't go party there. It wouldn't be free, and it wouldn't have a direction. The river gives it freedom, but it also gives the banks give it direction. And so a budget allows you to actually have freedom. So many people think, budget is just going to cramp my style. I can't live. You know what? You're not going to be able to live if you continue this way in your life. Now, here's the deal. When you make a budget, it's very simple. Make it a single piece of paper. Write down all of your expenses that you have. Knowing your facts is huge. So many people are like, but Matt, how do I actually live? I actually like that pumpkin spice latte, or I actually want this. Okay, enjoy that. Set some money aside, and if you're married, you do this together. You set some money aside each month, and you say, you know what, this is personal fun money. We call it mad money in my house. Go mad. It's an equal amount of money that you spend every single month, and when it's gone, it's gone. My wife is a major saver. I'm a spender. Let's say it's $50 a month, and maybe that's all you can have, $50 a month. I spend my $50 a month on restaurants and going out with friends, things that you would only do for yourself and not with your spouse, okay? I spend my $50 a month in 1 week, and then I got nothing to show for it, and I got to wait 3.5 weeks. Dang it. Meanwhile, Sarah's a saver, so she just keeps it there, and then 4 months later, she comes home with a new used road bike, and I'm like, how in the world? She's like, mad money, baby. She gets to still live and enjoy while also living on those higher goals that we have for each other. The key is actually doing it. The only difference, the average American today makes $50,000 a year. Do you know that? $50,000 a year. And the only difference between a person who makes $50,000 a year and retires a millionaire and a person who makes $50,000 a year and, like the average American, has less than $500 in your bank account and works at Walmart when you're 75 years old. As a door greeter, welcome to Walmart, welcome to Walmart. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But here's the deal. You don't want to be able to do that. You want to be able to do something else probably, right? And the only difference is their budget and their investing, which we're going to talk about next week. But you start with that. Build a budget. and it'll change your life. And number 2 is this: build a small emergency fund. Listen, you'll never get out of a vicious cycle of debt without an emergency fund, because life throws left hooks sometimes, doesn't it? I did not see that coming. My fridge just went out. Oh, my car just lost, whatever. The transmission went out. Something happened. Things happen in life. And when life throws you a left hook, you need at least $1,000. I say $1,000. Start there. If you're in debt, this is for those of you who are in debt. And if those of you who are not in debt, there's other stuff that we're going to get for you next week. But for those of you in debt, have a $1,000 emergency fund. And I want you to do that in 30 days. How in the world can I do that in 30 days? I don't even have, I can have $1,000 extra a month that I could do. Well, I want you to think about. Do you know what's so beautiful about not having resources? It makes you resourceful. You got to start using this. You got to start being creative. You got to start thinking, what can I sell? Is there another job I can get? I'm going to be mowing lawns. The kids are not up yet. I'm going to do 2 lawns a day on Saturday, get an extra job. And you're going to do it 2 Saturdays a month. Well, it's going to snow soon. Right now, raking leaves. $25 an hour, right? Do 2 in one day for 2 hours, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. You're still up by the time the kids get home. And now you've just made an extra $100 right there over a course of a month. Extra $100 a month right there. Get another job. Be resourceful. Think about, what don't I need? And you get rid of it, because right now you don't need it. You got to get rid of luxuries. You got to start moving ahead. Sarah and I, what we did, my wife is named Sarah, we lived like college students for 3 years. All right, 1 bedroom, 600 square foot place. We didn't have cable. We didn't even have internet. We lived by the University of Wisconsin at the time, and I would get on my bike and I would ride my bike to the university to get on the internet. That's how we were saying we were going to get out of this. We said no to everything that was a luxury, including internet. Some of you are like, oh, that's just, oh my God, we need free internet everywhere, right? Well, go get free internet somewhere else. And you don't have to pay $30 a month or $45 a month right there. And this could really help you, okay? That's number 2. Number 3 is this, and this one is so, so powerful because of how practical it is. It's called the Debt Snowball. Use the Debt Snowball. Here's how it works, okay? You're going to take your debts. Let's say you have 3 debts. 4 debts. You're going to list your debts. The first step is how the debt snowball works. You list your debts from smallest to largest. Look at this screen right here. All right, we got this picture up here, and this is a proverbial, element of we have a diagnostic bill, we have a hospital bill, Home Depot. You gotta have Home Depot, right? Now you got a bill, and you see the total payoff. Everybody see that? You see that right there. But then you got the minimum payment, $10 a month, $38 a month, $45 a month, $93 total a month as the minimum payment maybe that you're making in debt, okay? Step 2 is this: make the minimum payment on all debts except the smallest, okay? Dave Ramsey teaches this on a regular basis. Powerful stuff. Make the minimum payments on all the debts except the smallest. People push back and they're like, no, Matt, shouldn't I attack the smallest interest rate first? And then from there, be able to get unstrapped? And the answer is no. Attack the smallest, because when you actually see that a debt is gone, do you know what that does to your emotions? It is so rewarding. You're like kicking its tail. Oh my gosh, I just made some forward progress. We did it, honey. We made it happen. And you start getting excited to now attack it. Now what you do is you make the minimum payments on all the debts except the smallest. So you can kind of look at this. So if you had this picture here where you take, let's say, and you add $100. Let's say you got $10 a month for the smallest one as a minimum payment. Add $100 a month to that. Okay, do that. Add to that, and then you put all that money, that $10 a month, into the next one, $48 a month, okay? Instead of $38 a month. And it starts to build. And you repeat, that's number 3, step 3, repeat the method as you plow through your debt. The more you pay off, the more you're freed up. And then your money grows like a snowball rolling down the hill, and it starts to look like this, okay? Look at this. Bam, 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 bam. Now, here's how it works. Let me give you another example that's maybe more practical, okay? Let's put this on the slide here. Imagine that you got a couple of credit card loans, okay? Number one here, you got credit card one. It's $500, and it's 13% is the interest rate. And the monthly payment, minimum payment is $25 a month. Everybody tracking? Perfect. Credit card two, $1,000, 19%. Oh, with a monthly payment of $50 a month. Then you got a car loan, okay? $6,000 and 4% over 4 years and a monthly payment of $135, okay? This is actually real life situations. And then let's say you got a student loan like me, $15,000 in student loan at 5% interest over 10 years with a monthly payment of $159. Here's how the debt snowball works. Are you ready? If you pay a minimum on all of these, pay the 25, the 50, the 135, the 159, you pay a minimum on all of those except for the lowest one, the $25 one. You take that and you add another $100 if you can. If you add $100 in this specific scenario of a $500 credit card, you will have that credit card paid off in 4 months. Now, you take that money and then you attack the second credit card and you to the tune of $175 per month. Matt, how did you get $175 a month? Well, you take your $100 that you added. Then you take that $25 a month from that first credit card that you now have. That's $125 plus the minimum payment of $50 gives you $175. There you go. And you do that and guess what? That credit card will be paid off in 5 months. Now, you then have $310 to your name to be able to attack the next thing. That's $175 plus the $135 minimum payment toward that car. And at that rate, that car loan will be completely gone in 15 months. Now, by the time you get to your student loan, you will be paying $469 a month toward that student loan, and you can wave goodbye to Sally Mae in 24 months completely debt-free. Now, here's the good news. What about giving? What about that other 10%, Matt? What's so powerful is that you can actually start walking in a rhythm of contribution now. You don't have to wait till you're retired in 70. You can actually start doing that now. It takes you about 4 to 6 months longer if you just take that 10% from that debt snowball and you remove that 10% each month and you set it aside to contribute to whatever makes you excited. To whatever makes you want to contribute. And when you start to contribute, what it does is it gets you outside of your own world and you stop being so selfish and you start living with purpose and selflessness. And it sounds corny, but it's true. It really is better to give than to receive. And you can start participating in that even now. My wife and I, we lived that strategy, and that's how we got out of debt in 3 years and paid 2 master's degrees in cash. We never made a lot of money, but we were able to stay focused on the big rocks, on the big priorities, and be able to see that come. And then, when you're out of debt, you start putting that money towards your savings and investing. And you're going to see that snowball like crazy. And you're going to start seeing it happen. And the whole idea, though, is that it's got to be done with focused intensity. You got to stay focused, and the way you stay focused is reminding yourself of your vision of why you're doing what you're doing, because life will come in, and you will be tired, and you will feel weak, and you will say, yes, I want that. You may need to say no to restaurants for quite some time, and you need to say, you know what, we're going to set a bill. I'm going to actually look at a grocery budget, and I'm not just going to swipe the card. If you're a big spender, get rid of the credit card and just pay cash, so that you could actually see what's going on. And so that kind of focus and intensity, I just want you to close your eyes and imagine just how life without any debt could look like for you. I mean, imagine what that would look like. Now, you just have to go out and do it. Focus on the goal of debt-free living. I mean, being unstrapped and able to be responsible. When God says, hey, you know what, I want you to move. I want you to go help that person. And you feel the Holy Spirit saying, hey, I want you to go help them. Go connect with them. You want to be able to be responsible, right? Do you know what responsibility is? The definition of responsibility is the ability to respond. But you can't respond when you're strapped. But when you're unstrapped and you continue to do that off, you will have the ability to respond. You will be able to be responsible for a call that God has on your life, even if you didn't have it like set up right away in your life of like, oh my gosh, I can now go respond immediately. And it's so, so incredible. I got a good friend. His name is Josh. And Josh, 2 years ago, came to me and he said, Matt, I'm $96,000 in debt. Between my wife and I, we have 2 kids. And we make $67,000 a year between the two of us in our household. And we just can't seem to ever find enough cash to be able to get out of that debt. I mean, it just continues to compound. I mean, we make okay money, but it's just like, it doesn't, we never seem to have enough after it's like all done. And I said, okay, well, you don't have enough wiggle room. So first off, let's begin with the end in mind. I said, define enough. What? Define enough, because what's enough for you may be different than what's enough for me. So what you need to do when you're creating a vision is ask yourself, what does it mean to be enough? Like, what does that actually look like? And define it, and then set it in stone. And here's why. You know what the average American does? We match our standard of living with our income. And so no matter how much income you make, you're always stressed and you're always strapped. I have a good friend, he makes $250,000 a year, and he's got nothing to show for it. Why? Because he continues to spend. He matches. When his income goes up, his standard of living goes up. And so he's always strapped. What if you actually said 75% of what I'm going to make? There's nothing wrong with nice stuff. You want a Mercedes-Benz, you want a sweet house, whatever. That's fine. Go get it. But if it's to the detriment of being able to actually take 15% and 10% out of that, you're strapped. And so what would it look like if you didn't match your standard of living with your income? As your income grows, what if your standard of living said, this is enough? You'll never know that unless you start there, because when you get there, you'll be distracted. Ooh, I'm powerful. Corvette, get over here. You know, like I'm going to go get this stuff. And it's like, I don't actually need that. It gets me to point A, you know, a Geo Metro, or, you know, maybe you need to get Pastor Keith's Honda Accord that he talked about last week, and you're just like, I need to go buy that, you know. That's it. Look, so I need to figure out for me what is enough. Answering that specifically is powerful, because the day that you actually start making money, and I hope that all of you do, some of you are, you're saying, okay, but are we matching our standard of living with our incomes? And so we're in a no better place than we were when we were making $30,000 a year or $50,000 a year. So this is the issue. So he did that, and I said, be specific. And so I asked him, what does it mean to be enough for retirement? What is enough to be monthly? What is enough monthly for you? And I said, state the facts. And I said, what's your loans? And I said, least to greatest. And he didn't start out least to greatest. He just started off, and he said, well, I got a car debt loan of $27,000. And I said, we just need to stop right there. There is no reason when you're strapped and you have nothing to show for it that you have a $27,000 car. There's no reason. And he's like, no. I mean, I got to have my car. It's nice, you know, and that kind of stuff. I'm like, you're just keeping up with the Joneses. I said, how much is your monthly car payment? And he said, $470 a month, okay? It's a 3-year lease. And I said, okay, so at the end of your lease, you're going to be paying $6,000 a year over 3 years. You're going to have $18,000 going out of your pocket with nothing to show because you still don't own that car. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, here's the problem. Side note, this is just for fun, okay? This is for free. The average American today has $503 in a car loan per month, okay? Average American. If you were to take that money, that $503 a month, and you would get rid of a car, because a car depreciates. Unless you're like a car mechanic and you can do that, most of us are not, it depreciates. Not a good move. So if you take that $503, and if you're 25 years old and you invest that into a normal growth stock mutual fund, you will actually, from an average perspective over the last 75 years, we see from the S&P 500, it's a 12% return interest rate for you. If you did that by age 25, by the time you retired at 65, you would be upwhere in the $5 million range. And even if I'm half wrong, $2.5 million. Anybody like to have $5 million? Could you be okay with $5 million? I mean, imagine what you could do with $5 million. You can take care of yourself. You're not a burden on your family. You can invest and give and serve and go when you need. And you continue to make that. And that's just from that one investment. And then he pushes back and he's like, well, I got to have a car. And I said, you need to sell the car. And he goes, well, if I sell the car, I'll be upside down in the payment. And I'll have to make a $2,000 note for that. And I said, you're not going to be upside down. He's like, I'm going to have to take on more debt. I'm like, you're not going to have to take on more debt. You're going to have less debt. Last I checked, if you sell that car for $25,000 and you have $2,000 left, that's less debt, not more. And he says, well, I still don't have a car. I said, well, go get a Honda Accord like Pastor Keith's old one. Another $2,000. Now you have $4,000 in debt. But $4,000 in debt, is last I checked, is a lot less than $27,000. You don't need a sweet ride right now. You just need a ride that gets you from point A to point B. And you need to take that out. And right away, you are going to be able to see. You can do that today. You can go sign that out and sell that. I mean, imagine if you were to do that, what that could look like for you. Okay, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We're still in debt here. So here's the deal. When we walked through this, he pushed back, or we worked through, and he said, he said, the next debt that I have, here's my notes. He said, I said, what else do you have? And he says, I got $35,000 in school loans. I have $7,000 in her student loans. We have a ton of credit cards, probably $14,000, he said. We've maxed out our 401k loans. We have $20,000 combined. And I looked at him and I took all those notes and I just did some simple math. And I said, you know what your first problem is? What you just told me isn't $96,000. It's $103,000. So either you are in more debt than you realize, or you don't actually know your facts. You know, one of the most difficult things that people do in debt is they don't actually really know how much debt they have. We're so terrified to look at it. We're like an ostrich that sticks its head in the sand. It's like, as long as I don't see you, you can't see me. And that's what we do with money. But the first thing you got to do with money is get real with the facts. I say, this is it. And I said, you need to go back to the drawing board. And I said, something is not adding up. And he went back to the drawing board. He really was $96,000 in debt. But it's so powerful. It's a proverb. Proverbs 27:23. Know well the condition of your flocks and pay attention to your herds. Why is he talking about flocks and herds? That's because that was their economic income as farmers. That was money. And so for them, if you don't know and you're not paying attention, you're going to get robbed. And you're going to rob yourself. So you got to list them, smallest to largest. And you got to understand this. And I remember, for him saying, I've woken up in your shoes before. I've been where you're at. And even though you're uncomfortable, you got to realize you got to go after it. This morning in my quiet time, I was spending time reading Genesis. I'm reading through the book of Genesis. And in Genesis 49, verse 27, it's talked about a guy named Benjamin. And it said this peculiar verse in verse 27. It says, Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. And I was like, wow, that's a wonderful starting line. He's a ravenous wolf. And then he says, in the morning he devours his prey. He's got ambition. And in the evening he divides his spoil. And I wonder if today we have that backwards. I wonder if today, especially 20-somethings, 30-somethings, we like to divide our spoil first. And then, and then it's like, oh, no, I don't have anything left. And then we're 70 years old, and I'm like, oh, gosh, then I got to devour the prey. But my back hurts, and my knees hurt, and I'm tired. You shouldn't do that, right? In the morning, when you're young, devour your prey. Have ambition inside of you, starting with the vision that God's having you. Philippians says, do nothing out of selfish ambition. It doesn't say not have ambition. It says not selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Your attitude should be like that of Christ Jesus, who knowing God, didn't consider himself equality with God. I love that verse. It's in Philippians chapter 2. And he starts saying that there was a value in contribution. There's a value in being able to go and give when you're unstrapped. It will change your life forever. The point is this: immediate freedom causes lasting struggle. All right? That $5 in the morning latte drinker, you know what I'm talking about. All right? That cable and NFL package, that $1,000 iPhone, all of those things. But the opposite is also true. This is the thing to take home to the bank and you can cash it, okay? Immediate struggle causes lasting freedom. It's hard now. And you're going to find pain in this world one way or another, but in a way, you get to choose when and how long. Immediate struggle causes lasting freedom. You can make coffee at home. It's way cheaper. Okay? No more cable, no more NFL package. You can check Wi-Fi at the local library. And you can say goodbye to that iPhone 8. And you can get the iPhone 5C. It's free. It'll work. And it'll change your life. And that's the blessing of being broke. You take through the struggle and you realize I can be resourceful even though I don't have resources. And I can be responsible because I now have the ability to respond when God calls me to. And so we looked at him and we sat down with a budget for Josh, and 2 to 3 times, or 2 to 3 hours, we spent some time looking at everything. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? With the plan we just created for you, and if you actually work the plan, you can be out of debt in 3 years. It's been 2, and he's 2/3 of the way there. And it's so cool because he's got $34,000 left. He's plugging away. And I said, what are you going to do after this next year? Because January of 2019, he'll be debt-free. How cool is that? Debt-free. And he looked at me and he's like, gosh, I'm going to draw it back about $5,000. I'm going to take about $5,000 from what we normally would. I'm going to invest that into my family. We're going to go on a vacation, have some fun. I said, good for you. And he goes, and I'm going to take all the rest of that discipline, and I'm now going to start investing and saving, which is all the topic next week. And I'm going to start letting my money go forward. I've been paying the piper and paying interest all this time. It's now time for me to be the lender. It's now time for me to do this. Do you know I have properties and houses, and one of my tenants is a Denver principal, amazing man, extremely educated, makes $150,000 a year. But he rents from me. Why? Because he has debt and bad credit, and he's got the money, but he lives paycheck to paycheck. And he pays his rent great. He's got an amazing family, 2 wonderful kids, and I can't wait till I get to shake his hand when he no longer is renting from me, because I want him to get onto it. He's got the money, and I want him to be able to see, but right now he's a slave to the lender, and that's me. I'm getting paid from him, from that. And I want to be able to see him step into this. But until he starts realizing I need to create a budget, he'll never get there. And so he's 51 years old. I'm 34. It doesn't matter your age. At any point, wherever you're at in your journey, wherever you're at in your financial journey, you can start taking steps now. You don't have to make any excuses. I know you got sob stories. We all got it. We could always be like, you don't understand my story and my situation. Okay, well, let's be resourceful within your situation. And so for you, if you need a budget, if you need to learn how to do that, there's a resource called everydollar.com. You can just go take that and start practicing. You can take an Excel spreadsheet. Simple. You don't need to it's totally free. And you can start actively getting out of debt. And here is why, as you do this, and as you even, just a quick note on housing, if you're 35% of your net monthly income on your housing, if you're paying more than 35%, your house broke. Means you can't do what you're called to do by God. So be under 35% of what you're spending, okay? I know in Denver that's expensive. If you're renting, you may need to get a roommate. In fact, that's what Josh did. They had a house. They were paying $2,200 a month, and they had a room, an extra room in their basement, and they lived by DU. And he invited a college student to rent from him for $450 a month, and it got him out of 35%, and it got him under to about 28%. And he started moving and shaking. What will $450 a month do for you? That'll take a major chunk out of your situation and to help. So imagine, guys, imagine what it could look like if you start getting out of debt and you could start moving forward. This is all it takes. You got to set a budget. You got to have an emergency fund for when life throws its left hooks, and you got to do the debt snowball. You do that and you'll find yourself debt-free and on the journey of being unstrapped faster than you could ever imagine. So don't ever let not having enough stop you from getting up every day, because you got a vision, a North Star that God's given you in your heart to run after. Amen? So let's do this. Let's stand, and we're going to sing this song here in a little bit of God's amazing grace that he gives to us. And that grace isn't just a gift of saying, here's $100,000 and you're debt-free, but it's the grace that you've been given a brain to be able to make a difference in this world and make a difference in your life. And so, God, we come before you and we thank you for the practicality of the Spirit. God, we thank you that we don't have to divorce spiritual conversation from practical life, that they can merge beautifully as one is the same. And we thank you for Proverbs, wisdom literature, And God, may we heed it. May we apply the knowledge given, and that we would be people that get out of debt as fast as we can. That we could help each other in that, and then we could start saving and investing and giving even while we're going down the journey. And God, I pray for this church, that this church, 3D Church, would move people out of a two-dimensional area of their own spiritual life and into a three-dimensional area, that it is with God, it is with life, it is with all of the way that we love and serve people. God, thank you for the gift of being made in your human likeness, and knowing that part of that is the gift to contribute and give back to this world. We're so honored. We're so grateful. And I pray that you would breathe life into the sails of those who have been ridden and downcast, who are depressed, who are stuck, who are without a job, that you would bring finances to them, that you would bring stability and structure to them. And that 3 years from now, 1 year from now, 4 years from now, we see this entire church debt free. In Jesus' name. And everybody said? Amen. Love you guys.